All right, everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Big Nick Real Estate Show. I'm Nick Ellison. I'm a local broker here in Wilson, North Carolina, just outside of Raleigh and Greenville. And I'm going to do this show every week, and we're going to talk real estate, talk stories, walk through houses, just have a day in the life, a little bit of everything. And today we're starting with a big one, and that big one is Wilson, North Carolina a good place to move to? So, before we get into that, I am going to give you, since it's the first show, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. Obviously, I'm Nick Ellison. I'm from Westminster, Maryland. I played basketball in my first year. I played in a school in Ohio, and then I ended up here at Barton College. I played 3 years at Barton College, loved my experience. Wilson's very different today than it was, 7-8 years ago. But man, I love it. And so I ended up just staying in Wilson. And so my wife, actually, she opened up a business in Wilson, Mission Physical Therapy. We live local with our two dogs, Conway and Sable. They're both a little nuts. And I go by the Biggest Realtor. I go by the Biggest Realtor because I'm 6'10", 300 pounds. So if you find one bigger than me, I would love to talk to them. So the big question today that we're going to talk about is Wilson, North Carolina a good place to move to? And so that's a question we get every day, all the time, every day. We get a lot of questions. One of those other questions we get every day is, how's the market? How's the market? We're going to get to that. So Wilson, North Carolina is becoming a better and better place to move to every day. And so if you know nothing about Wilson, it's a local small southern town. We have about 50,000 people in the city limits, about 100,000, just under 100,000 in the city and the county. Wilson has always been known for tobacco. That's what put Wilson on the map a long, long time ago. BB&T, which is now Truist, was created in Wilson. So Wilson has a long, storied history. And so, you still get that small town vibe, but we're adding new big town amenities. And so, we're going over a little bit of those amenities right now. Wilson is currently building a stadium downtown that is going to be the Wilson Warbirds. Some people like the name, some people don't. I'm excited for it. It's going to be right in the heart of downtown. The people that are doing this job have actually done this in other cities and have revitalized downtowns. And Wilson has really needed that revitalization of downtown for a while now. So when I got here 10, 11 years ago now, there was a lot of boarded up shops and buildings, and now it has done a complete 180. So we have Centro, which is a new apartment complex downtown. And they have a pool and a fitness center and a Y next door. And then you've got, all these new restaurants and shops opening. And it's bringing a spark of life back into Wilson, which is what's needed. And then so the Wilson Warbirds, their first game is April 14th. So month and a half? So that's going to be fun. Opening day is going to be a great time. They're an affiliate of Milwaukee, so they're coming. That's going to be exciting. But even with all that coming, you still have that small town feel. You still can go to the post office and know the same person every time, and you still go to the bank and you can talk to the same person every time. And it's very good for Wilson to have that mixture. And on top of all that, Wilson has become an industrial hub almost. So Johnson & Johnson is spending $2 billion plus putting in facilities. Bringing 400 some jobs, nice paying jobs, and that's going to open up a whole different market for Wilson. And we need more good houses for people in those jobs to buy. And so besides them, Mucinex is building a plant here. We've had a lot of people decide to choose Wilson as their home. The cost of living in Wilson relative to, let's say, Raleigh, right? So depends on where it's at in Raleigh, depends on where it's at in Wilson, but the cost of living to live in Wilson versus Raleigh, you can live in Wilson and drive to Raleigh and save a ton of money because the same house in Wilson that might be $250,000 is $450,000, $500,000 in Raleigh. And so a lot of people decide that they want to move to Wilson and they'll drive to Raleigh every day, or they can find a job in Wilson and just stay here. Obviously, we want people spending local dollars, local businesses. When it comes down to it, that's what I am. I'm my own local business. And so, you got to eat, sleep, play, do all of it where you live. Obviously, you take the occasional night out, do whatever. But, Wilson has gotten so much better. Wilson's great for families. We have a ton of schools. We have a ton of public schools. We have a great school district. We have a ton of private schools, charter schools. Greenfield High School in Wilson is a private school, and they have, obviously I'm a basketball player, so they've unleashed crazy basketball talent. Their basketball coach just got his 700th win, and so that's awesome for him. Congratulations. And so it's a good thing. Now, it is not a good thing if you like the city life. If you like going up 36 floors and going to your apartment at nighttime, or, being able to walk downtown and there's 5 nightclubs, 20 restaurants, 6 bars. That's not Wilson. I don't think that's ever going to be Wilson. Yes, there's things coming. There's, all these new restaurants that are on Slate and different, events and places to eat. And they're doing a great job with what we have, but it's never going to be the big city feel. We have, limited nightlife. There are great bars and restaurants that are open, but there's not, we don't have any clubs when you're walking downtown. We're not going to have Barton College when they win a game. They're not going to all rush downtown and climb the light pole like they do on Franklin Street when they accidentally beat Duke. Gotcha. And so that's just not going to be Wilson. It's not going to happen, which is good, because if you like that smaller town feel with some bigger town amenities, I think that's what Wilson is really going to move towards. So like I said, the smaller town pace. I mean, our traffic it takes me 9 minutes to get across town instead of 6. And so when I first met my wife, we lived in Raleigh, right on the outskirts of Raleigh. And my drive from here to there wasn't too bad. But the second I got into Raleigh, it was 25 minutes just to get from the exit to the house, which was 1.5 miles. And so, we're a little spoiled here. When we say we want to go to Parker's for lunch, we're 9 minutes away from Parker's from our office, and we're like, oh man, I don't want to go all the way over there. And so we get a little spoiled here. But that's a con if you don't like it. If you want the big city vibe and stuff to do on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, we just don't have that yet. And I don't think we ever will. And so, but for families with the schools, we have the Whirligig Park, which we'll get to the Whirligig. It is amazing what they've done. They have made this beautiful park, and now it's actually right behind the stadium. And so it's going to be an event coming to the stadium, because you'll have this big walk up, these restaurants, these different shops, a little, entrance area. You have the Whirligig Park, which in the summers on Thursdays, they do, the Whirligig downtown, and they have bands come and food trucks, and it's really a cool event. It has the Whirligig Festival every year in November. That brings a ton of people to Wilson. They set up shops, and they close down a bunch of blocks downtown and have shows. And last year I got sucked into the dinosaur show with my little nephews and nieces, so that was fun. I'm a big kid at heart. And so it's a great community. You can still get that wave to everybody, kind of know everybody feel, but at the same time, you can branch out and meet new people. So it's a perfect mixture. People that want to leave those big cities, people that, live in Raleigh or have lived in Raleigh their whole life, don't want to leave the area, but just want to get far enough away. We're only 45 minutes down the road. And so people can sell their houses that they've lived in for 30 years in Raleigh for $1 million and come buy one here for $400,000 and live a really good life without the busyness and, the traffic and higher prices and a little bit of everything else. Sorry, this is what I live off of lately. Not really good for my heart, but it'll be okay. Wilson's also really good for retirees. Once again, you get back to that slower pace of life, and they have clubs for these retirees, Kiwanis, Rotary, Elks. There's so much to do here for them, and they can make a new group of people. So, they retired from their job. We have a lot of people who are retiring from up north, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and the house prices up there are crazy compared to the house prices here. So I sold my parents' house in Maryland for about $555,000. And when they came down here, they were able to get almost the same type of house for $250,000. And so you're getting a lot of people up there that are retiring, that are moving down to North Carolina, saving money, taxes, slower pace of life. I like to think we're a little nicer. You can get sweet tea. So there's a lot of perks to that. And the good thing about that is, we're just getting, I don't want to say overcrowded, but we're getting more money into Wilson to be able to do the stuff that we've been talking about. And that's a really good thing. Without enough people, we couldn't do the stadium. We couldn't do the new shops and restaurants. We couldn't do all that stuff, the apartment buildings. And so that's positive. The other bad thing about Wilson sometimes is we don't have as high of inventory. So, the people that are looking for 2,500, 3,000 square foot house, $500,000, we lack that. Now, starter home, 250, 300, brand new construction, might be D.R. Horton, Lennar, whoever, we're building a surplus of that. We just don't have anything right now unless you go to neighborhoods like the Country Club, the Bluffs, Belmead, that really, you get a really good house for that $400,000 to $600,000 range. We're missing some of that. And so that's where we might lose some of the people coming from Raleigh, Greenville. But I think that's to come, right? We haven't had the jobs and everything else that could support those houses until recently. And so it's coming, it's going to happen. And right now, roughly homes are averaging, I'm going to say in the 160 per foot range. Obviously that's a very skewed number depending on location, how the house is it nice? Is it about to fall down? And so, but right now at the same time, we have a lack of that good inventory. We have a buyer call today and say, hey, I want to be in the New Hope School District. It's one of our better school districts. And I want to be around this price. Well, that's tough. 6 years ago, yeah, could have easily been done. Now, Wilson's coming back up with the times. It's still cheaper to live here than most places, but prices have risen. And so it's hard for the people that have lived in Wilson their whole life to, well, I'm not paying that for that house. Well, it's the world we live in, and the market's rising and stuff's a little more expensive. Interest rates are teetering. They want to come down. They just haven't yet. And so I think that it is still a good time for people to come here, invest their money here. We have a bunch of small businesses that are just taking off. And we have a bunch of massive global businesses that decide to plant their roots in Wilson. FedEx just built a 1 million square foot facility right down the road. People wouldn't do that in those big companies. Johnson & Johnson is a multi-billion-dollar a year company. They would not just choose Wilson because they put a spot on a map and said, Wilson, North Carolina sounds like a good place to go. No, they did their R&D. They did their research. They know what we have to offer, that we're right next to 95. We're 45 minutes from Raleigh. We're 35 minutes from Greenville. We're 2 hours from the beach. We are so centrally located to be able to do everything that it just makes sense. And so, I'm seeing that it's still, a good seller's market, but it's not as easy as it was. Sellers can't just put their house on the market and think, I'm going to list it for whatever I want. I'm not going to do any repairs. That's just not how it's working anymore. Sellers, average days on market have gone back up to 52, where during COVID, it was like 52 seconds. It was just, you put something on the market, it goes. You put something on the market, it goes. Now, stuff's sitting a little longer. Yeah, there's some exceptions. But now more than ever, sellers have to, actually clean up before listings and do some repairs and minor stuff. And, we're sitting here at the end of February and the spring market's coming up, and that's a time usually where inventory kind of spikes a little bit. So if you're thinking of selling, now's a good time to get on to spring cleaning, right? Fresh mulch, fresh pine straw, clean up the inside. If your dog's bitten off the door frame, fix it. Plant some bushes, clean up, do all the things if you think that you even remotely might sell. If nothing else, you just made your house look better and it made you want to stay there. So I think that's a good place to start. This being my first one of these, I hope to, give you all great information and have some fun while we do it. I know today's not the most fun because I'm just trying to, introduce myself, introduce Wilson. Is Wilson a great place to move to? And I think we're going to have some fun through this podcast. And so, they're going to be short episodes, 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to do one a week, and we're going to do some ride-alongs. We're going to do some house tours. It's going to be all raw, unfiltered. This is me. This is what you get. I'm not filtering anything. There's no scripts. There's no there's nothing. It's just coming all off the top of my head. You're getting the raw, authentic version of me. So I appreciate anybody that has watched this video and watched any of my short videos. And, you know, I handle social media a little different. I saw the need for some good social media in Wilson, and I decided to fulfill it. So I've never been scared of a camera. I've never been scared to have some fun. I don't get embarrassed. So I'll go into the middle of a Walmart in a Grinch outfit, which I've done before, and just start talking to people. I love what I do. I love Wilson. And so, you know, it's one of those things that if you're thinking about buying or selling in Wilson, anywhere nearby, we go to the beach a lot. I help people do that every day and every single week, and I'd love to help you too. And make sure to subscribe to these, because that way, you know, you can get the most up-to-date knowledge and all the information that, you know, Wilson can have and surrounding areas can have. And you might see me jump into a pool or a lake or do something stupid. And I hope to see you back here.